long lines. I talk a lot about them and what an effective tool they are, really. However, you've got to weigh it up between an absolute nightmare of knots, wet, mud, tripping over, tangling up in brambles, falling over, getting caught around the dog's legs, and spending a large percentage of the training session messing around with this. We've all been there, we've all done it, and the amount of hours that I've spent untangling one of these, it's not even worth mentioning. However, they still have a place within our training regime, within our training journey, with progressing the dog's recall, progressing the dog's ability to stay close and work close, etc., etc. If you're talking gun dogs, spaniels, quartering, you would want something to keep the spaniel tight. When I say tight, I train them purposefully close to me, zip, 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 left, right, quartering, very, very close, because I know, and I'm doing that for a reason, because I know that when they're out there on the real thing, when they start getting real game scent, they will naturally cast out further. So I'm preempting that distance and training it closer and tighter with that in mind. So yes, we do need a method, yes, we do need a tool to tether a dog close to us, but if it's a pet dog, it's a great tool to reinstill recall. You know, you can hold it. If you call the dog ignores you, check, remind it, oh yeah, sorry dad, I'm coming back now, reward. But you have to handle them correctly, and you have to constantly keep enough in your hand to give them line, give them slack, but always be aware of if the dog ignores you, you're going to have enough wrapped up in your opposite hand to take that slack up. Because otherwise you'll end up pulling, and there's 2 meters on the floor and the dog's still ignoring you. So they are a frustrating tool, but they still have a purpose within our training program. And that purpose is to not hold it. Drag it on the floor. Let the dog drag it on the floor. Clearly, in an environment like this where it's not going to get tangled, it's not going to get knotted, it's not going to get caught around trees or brambles or blackthorn or whatever, but the dog will drag it along the floor. That then will provide enough friction with it dragging on the floor to keep the dog in the mindset of, yes, I am still in an element of being tethered. And then it will be less likely to bugger off because it will feel the friction on the floor. Okay? So yeah, use it. But if you are at the stage where you're wrapping around trees, you're wrapping around bracken, and it's an absolute nightmare, get rid of it, because it's not worth the hassle. Okay? Yes, let them drag along the floor. Yes, use it as a friction aid, but then you want to move on. Okay? Now, woohoo! Yes, 20 quid, Amazon. Get the longest one you can. 8 meters, I think this is, which is plenty enough space for any dog to free run, self-stimulate, have exercise, work. 8 meters is enough space to do anything. But you don't have the knots, you don't have the wetness, you don't have the mud. It's not wrapping around undergrowth, you're not tripping over it, you're not spending 10 minutes every training session untangling it from your legs and your arms and your dog's neck and your dog's tail and all that jazz. So yes, get a retractable lead because it does the work for you. Dog goes out, lock it if it's going too far, and then that goes stiff. You then go, come on Rover, and then you loosen it, lacking it off, and then the dog takes the line off for you. A lot easier, a lot more practical, but. The reason why I don't initially recommend these to people is because they fall into the biggest trap of when they are walking their dog to the place where they're going to let their dog off and run free, they've got it at 8 meters. So the dog is 8 meters in front of the owner on the pavement walking to the park. So all of that heel work that you've spent hours doing, straight out the window. The dog will become accustomed to being in front of you. And then if you change it and put it back on a slip lead, or change it and keep it at its lock setting so the dog is beside you, the dog will naturally start to pull again, and you're back to square one with it pulling you down the street, because it's used to being in front of you as you've walked it from A to B. What to do? Walk your dog nicely to heel with it on the lead beside you. Okay? If it pulls, stop, wait for it to look at you, and then it will naturally step back. When you get to the place where you want to exercise your dog, or you want to work your dog, or you want your dog to go run free and have some free running time, sit the dog. Sit, wait for the dog to look at you, and then go mate, or get on, or free, or break, or whatever word you use. Then let the lead go, and the dog runs off. Hang on, got to get my head around it. See, I'm still not used to using it. And the dog runs off and gets free running. Okay, but there you go, I've got it. But what you need to do is section off that thought process. To the park, sit, good boy, dog looks at you, good lad, away you go, and the dog has got all the line in the world. Okay, yes, they are a good tool, yes, they are a lot more practical, yes, they are really, in some senses, better than the long line, because you're not getting wound up and stressed and tied up in knots and all that kind of stuff, but you have to use them correctly. A to B, locked, not out. Keep the dog here. When you get to B, or you get to the park or the field or your training ground or your paddock or your meadow, sit the dog up, wait for the dog to sit to you, tell the dog to get on, give it as much line as it needs.